Welcome to another episode of Inside the Line, Real Stories by Real Cops. I'm Dave Rattigan, across from Dale Lawrence, and retired police officer. And this is a good time to plug us with everything. InsideTheLine.org, Real Stories by Real Cops at gmail.com. And please share us if you like us. We have a great story, and we have a great guest on this episode, Brian Joyce. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Dave? Long time no talk.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Just to let the listeners know, Brian and I were old friends, worked together as comedians in Boston. That was a long time ago. Brian is now he was a radio host, a co-host, I guess, and now he's been for the last, 10 years in Chattanooga on Talk Radio 102.3 FM in Chattanooga. He's the morning voice and a liberal morning voice in a conservative area. He's also an entrepreneur. He formerly worked as a bartender, so the healing professions. You're also the owner, co-owner, right, of the Blue Light?
I'm technically the co-owner, but for all intents and purposes, I'm the guy.
You're the guy. You're the man.
Yeah, I'm the guy.
And we when we found out, well, first of all, we were going to talk more about this, but since we mentioned the we have a story that we'll be talking about next week about a police chief or former police chief. Looks to be probably had a little problem with drugs, started raiding the evidence room, allegedly, and now he's charged with trying to fake his own death. That's always been, to me, one of my goals in life, has been to get to successful enough that I can later on fake my own death and get away with it.
Well, the only problem with that, Dave, is no one would really care.
I know. That's a good thing. Well, here's the thing. When I read the story, though, Brian would be the perfect guy to do this because Brian's successful, so he's got loads of money. He's been a little nomadic. He's moved around at different points in his life.
That's true.
No wife, no kids, right?
No wife, no kids. Nothing tying me down. I could fake my own death tomorrow.
You ever think about it?
No, and the main reason why, we've actually discussed this on the program on my radio show a few times. I don't know how in 2022, and your partner who's an ex-cop can hear me on this. In 2022, how do you get away with the perfect crime? There's surveillance video everywhere. Yeah. There's surveillance everywhere. Yeah. Everybody's on the grid. Everybody's got a smartphone. Everybody's on 16 different social media platforms. Your iPhone is tracking you even when you don't know it is.
Right.
I mean, back in the 60s, you could pull this off.
Oh, easy.
On your head. Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you do it in 2022, but I guess that's why the guy didn't do it successfully.
Right. He got caught, I think, they caught him on a video monitor, security video. I don't know. I think you could do it. I think the thing about it is you're the kind of guy who could do it because of the fact that, you don't have those, you don't have the family. My daughter, by the way, is now 16. Brian.
Yeah.
And she's 16, and if I couldn't bug her every day, my life wouldn't be nearly as enjoyable. But
I tell you, there was one time a couple of years ago. It's funny you say, like, I'm kind of nomadic and I've been around the world and I don't have really any attachments. There was one episode in recent memory where I feel like that almost got me into trouble. I've been to Colombia a few times, which is weird to a lot of people.
Yeah. I wonder why. Hold on just a second. I just got to ask Dale, being a cop. Yeah. So, Dale, when you find out that someone's been to Colombia a couple times, what's your first thought?
Well, initially, I would say that he's a drug mule. But however, if you look into Colombia, if I'm not mistaken, Colombia is the capital of counterfeit money.
Oh, so he's a counterfeiter.
Yeah. You don't think he's either a drug mule or a counterfeiter or just a guy on vacation.
Yeah. Or a coffee importer.
You're kind of close to a couple of things. Colombia is the capital of a lot of things. And the reason that brought me down there, I went down there one time just for beach and food because I had heard great things about it. The other thing that Colombia is the capital of the world of is beautiful young women. And I happened to meet one. I met one at a nightclub the first time I was down there. And like the idiot that I am, booked another flight down there to go visit her. And long story short, it was maybe the best weekend of my life.
Okay.
We had a good time. But the first night I got there, I flew in on a Friday. This is in Bogota, Colombia. I flew in on a Friday. And Dave, I think you know that I have dual citizenship. So I've got a U.S. passport and an Irish passport. Yep. And a lot of times when I travel internationally, I bring both of them just in case, the shit hits the fan or something comes up.
Right.
And so I had the Irish passport, and the first night we go out, we get some cocktails, We go back to my room, probably have the best sex of my life, pass out in a drunken heap, wake up the next morning, wake up on Saturday morning, no passport, no idea what happened to it. Call the U.S. consulate. They say, yeah, I mean, you can get a replacement passport, but that's not going to be until like Tuesday. And I've got to fly home on Sunday. So I'm like, gosh, shit, what am I going to do now? So I took the Irish passport, and after arguing and bickering with the airline, airport officials, airport security, plus American and Colombian authorities, they did let me back into the United States on the Irish passport. But I was just thinking to myself, like, what do you suppose these guys are thinking? Here's a guy with 2 passports, goes down to Colombia on one. He's trying to get back into the United States on another. Yeah, he's got to be a drug mule.
Oh, did she steal your passport, or do you think you just lost it?
No, I just lost it.
I think she probably stole it, and there's some guy who looks like you coming in and out of the country dropping off pounds of coke in Florida.
I don't even think it's somebody who looks like him. I don't think it's just
possible.
Somebody. Yeah.
I do know shortly, maybe about a year after this incident happened, it was one night she got kidnapped on the streets of Bogota. She was coming out of a nightclub and got bundled into a car with a pillowcase over her head.
Wow.
I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Wealthy family or
Yeah, families like upper income, parents are accountants, really nice family.
That's a great story. And she got away. She was returned unharmed, I hope.
She was returned unharmed. And then I met up with her again last year in Fort Lauderdale and also had one of the best weekends of my life. So she's if it weren't for like the 3,000-mile separation, she's a real keeper.
Does she have any sisters? Me and Dave can come down for a weekend.
I think she's got a brother. But
that's good. Okay, that covers Dave. What about me?
She does have. She has a week off from university. Yes, she's still in college. She's got a week off from university in April. And I told her maybe I could come down and visit you. And because she doesn't want her parents up her ass, she was wondering, why don't we meet in another city? I'll bring a friend and you bring a friend. So it is on the table.
Wow. All right. That's excellent. And she's in college. Isn't she a little bit old for you?
Maybe. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, but she's getting up there. I like her maturity level. It's good.
That's a cool story. So let's talk about the blue light. Speaking of keeping you young, this would be the thing that would make you, I would think, make you feel older by the second if you're dealing with it in the middle of it, or just make you so mad you're ready to go all Eastwood on people. Your story involves the nightclub. It involves the town officials, the famous Good Old Boy Network, cops. It involves media. Why don't we start at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to open a bar. I bartended. I was in the bar business when I was in my early 20s, and there's not a time in my adult life where I did not want to open my own bar at some point in my life. And so finally, in my early 40s, I was in a spot where I could do it. I had the time to do it. I had the energy to do it. I had a little bit of money saved away that I could put towards the use of it. And so it took me about... it was a long process. I looked around the city for about 3 years, found a great location, and went into business. And the good news is the business has been killing it. My hunch was correct. I had an idea as to what Chattanooga nightlife was missing. So I thought in my head, why don't I try to fill that void in the marketplace? And I did. Business has been insane. I'm not going to quote you numbers because I don't want any kits coming down on me, but the margins have been ridiculous. Yeah.
What's your capacity for the room?
It's small. We've got a 2,000 square foot room and the capacity is 197.
Okay, so 197, you can basically, it's not small, but it's not huge, but you can make some money.
Yeah, we do numbers that when let's put it this way, when I put in my liquor order every Monday, every Monday I order a new round of orders from all of my distributors, and their eyes pop out of their head when they see what we're doing. So, the business has been great. And just what shocked me about it, though, look, I knew I had been on the radio for about 9 years. I'm a pariah I'm a classic talk radio host in this city. 50% of the crowd that likes me loves me. And then the other 50% would try to assassinate me if they could, because they just hate everything about me. They hate my politics. In the South, they hate people from the North. They have never gotten over losing the Civil War. And it's just a chip on their shoulder that they carry. It's kind of sad and pathetic to me. Going into business, I never quite realized how just what a mountain this would be. I mean, from day one of opening up this business, everybody from landlords to the business neighbors to the people on the street to the cops who walk the street to the members of this beer board, this jackass committee that we have in Chattanooga that handles your beer permitting. That's called the beer board. We'll get to that later. But everybody from top to bottom, Dave, I've never seen corruption like this in my life. I've never seen coordinated corruption, jealousy, incompetence, nastiness. I've never seen anything like it. And it blew my mind because I tell people all the time, I'm from Boston. Like, I grew up Irish in Boston. If anybody's supposed to be corrupt, it's the Irish political scene in cities like Boston and Chicago. And I ran a business down here, and in the first 2 months in business, I was like, wow, you guys make Chicago and Boston look clean. Yeah. I mean, I can't even believe it.
Well, let me ask you this, because it seems like, am I correct that some of your problems stem from your clientele in your format?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. To this day, it's unfortunate to say this, but I'll just be truthful with you. This city is the most racist city. Just a city with the most latent, inherent racism that I've ever experienced in my life. It's a great city. It's not like it comes from city officials. You know, I'm not saying the mayor is racist. I'm not saying city councilors are racist. I'm not saying the police chief is racist. Heck, the new police chief is an African-American woman who was just hired from Atlanta. I'm just saying that good old boy network that pulls the strings and really runs things here behind the scenes, it's one of the most awfully racist places I've ever been a part of. So what do I mean by that? Before I even opened the bar, walking down the street one day, right out in front of my bar. And it's a street, it's kind of similar. It's a smaller version of Lansdowne Street in Boston. You know, it's kind of like the entertainment street. There's a bunch of bars and nightclubs on that street. And I'm walking down there about a month before I open, and I pass two of the Chattanooga police officers who were working the beat down there. And I hear them talking about my place. And they're saying, yeah, you know, they're supposed to be opening some new, you know, New York style place in here. And so, and I stopped and introduced myself. I said, hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, this is my place. Like I heard you talking about it. It's going to be pretty cool. And this is the first thing that this cop says to me. And this has been, this is the one crooked cop who keeps coming back into this story time and time and time again. But this officer says to me, very first words out of his mouth. He says, yeah, cool. What kind of music are you going to be playing in here? You're going to be playing good music or that hip hop shit?
Oh, boy.
And I said, wow, I know what the kids like. I'm going to bring in a DJ who plays whatever the fuck he wants. How about that? You know? And he says to me, I can tell you right now, you start playing that hip hop shit, going to attract the wrong crowd. You're going to get shut down within a couple of months. I said, all right, great. It's good to know that I've got a lot of positive support here in this fucking city. Thanks a lot, Officer Schmuck.
I took a look at that police department once I knew you were going to be on the podcast. And in the last couple of years, they've had over 200 internal affairs investigations. And I just saw 8 or 9 cops who either were fired or resigned from everything from sexual assault to illegal search and seizure to kidnapping, excessive force, and assault and battery. So I think you're right on point with that police department. I'm not sure it hasn't changed in the last couple of years, but I'm sure it's probably pretty much the old boy network. And if you don't, walk to their beat of their drum, my friend, then they're going to make things difficult for you, unfortunately.
Well, it's funny you bring this up. So let me get into this particular officer, because as it turns out, I did end up getting him suspended from the job. Because here's the thing. What a lot of these clowns don't realize, they like to fuck around with me. And I always tell people, I'm a nice guy, but when you fuck with me, I fuck back. Doing what I do for my day job, being in the media, I know a lot of people in this city. This is the officer who was walking the beat almost every Friday, Saturday night. Fast forward to when I did open up the business, and you can follow the entire saga on social media. But almost from day one, not from day one, but by week 1 of month 2, I just start getting harassed up and down with fake allegations, false police reports. They're reporting me to the beer board for things I never did. They're reporting me to the beer board for incidents that never happened. In some cases, things that are a little bit exaggerated or taken out of context, and in other cases, just complete 1000% fabrications. I was like, wow, like what is going on here?
Right. And you're saying you mean cops.
The cops.
Yeah.
And
okay.
It was one cop in particular who was writing up the majority of these reports.
Okay.
He's the guy who patrols Station Street. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You guys are going to love this. It had been said to me a couple of times by some people, he's not paid by the city to walk this beat. It's private business owners who pay him. I said, really? Like, who do you mean? They go, I'm pretty sure it's the guy who owns the bar across the street. He's the guy who's paying this officer to patrol this street and write up those reports.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, that's interesting. So I go to another officer who heads up the beer board at the time. And this guy is as crooked as the day is long. We can get to him in a minute, too. But I'm asking him, I had a sit-down meeting with him. And I said, John, I've been told that, like, the officer who's walking the street here and trying to keep peace and order, he's not on the city payroll. Like, he's being paid, like, as a private detail. And all I get is, no, that's illegal. You can't do that. And I said, well, really? Because I'm just telling you, that's what some of the neighbors have told me. Can I do that? No. City ordinance prevents you. Bar owners in this city, bar and restaurant owners cannot hire private detail. It cannot hire current, active duty police officers, even if they're off duty, to work private details. And I said, okay, I guess I trust you on that.
Okay.
This guy keeps writing up these bogus reports. So finally, I go to my buddy, who's the assistant police chief, and I send him a message. And I said, can you do me a favor once and for all? Tell me who is paying this officer who keeps writing me up. I've been told he's paid by private business owners, but the cop who heads up the beer board is telling me that's illegal. So can you just give me a final answer? He comes back to me within 3 minutes and he says, yeah, the guy writing the checks is a fellow by the name of Dwayne Carleo. And I said, yeah. Dwayne Carleo is the man who owns the 2 nightclubs across the street from me. So the guy who runs my competition, the man who runs the competition directly across the street from me, is the guy who's writing the checks that pays the officers to patrol the streets. And that's the guy who's writing up the fake allegations on me. So I go back to Glenn and I go to the assistant police chief. I said, hey, man, I'm no super sleuth myself, but seems to me like that's a little bit of a conflict of interest. And he comes back to me and he says, Brian, this has got to be a mistake. It's got to be an oversight. They know that this is not supposed to be done. This is not how we do it. And I said, well, you might want to look into it because that's what's being done. I also reported it to the mayor. The mayor comes back to me about 2 months later. And he says to me, hey, by the way, that officer that you reported to me, he got suspended for that. Okay. I said, really? He said, yeah, it's an internal affairs investigation. They know what was going on. Now, here's where it gets even juicier. My web guy, I've got a social media and web guru who kind of handles the web end, Google end of things for me. He starts getting in on this and says, let me investigate this guy who runs the 2 bars across the street. He came to Chattanooga from Knoxville, Tennessee. Within about a 15-second Google search, my web guy comes back with city council minutes from 6 years ago in Knoxville. This guy was the subject of the exact same accusations in Knoxville. He was paying off cops. He was hiring cops, off-duty police officers, KPD, Knoxville Police, to patrol the street for him and curry favors. Basically run other people out of business, make sure he gets no hassle when he applies for a beer permit. He was doing the exact same thing in Knoxville and got cited for it in Knoxville. Right. Moves to Chattanooga, does the exact same thing.
Let me just check one thing, because the idea of leaving the premises for coppers on a detail. Here in Massachusetts, I know, and unless they've changed the law, you're a bar, you're whatever, you're a venue. You want to hire a cop, you can hire a cop. They're fairly expensive, but you hire that cop, and a lot of cops will take care of what goes on inside and try to keep it out of the papers if they can. But leaving the premises, Dale, do you ever do that?
No, typically if someone would hire someone, if there's a group of bars on the street, 10 bars on the street, then all the 10 owners would get together and they'd put the money in together and they would hire the cop to patrol that area of the street. Now, if one owner decides he wants a cop, then you're absolutely right. If that cop is corrupt and he or she is easily influenced, they could very easily pick on a unsuspecting bar owner and harass him or her. Therefore, they shut down the competition. It sounds exactly what they did.
And what you just alluded to there is the other kind of half of the story here. So in addition to being a bar owner, he also owns the building that houses these two bars across the street from me. He owns that building. And there's only two property owners on the entire street. It's the landlords who own and operate my place, and it's him. So technically speaking, as I understand it, the loophole he's been getting away with is exactly what you just said. He's not hiring cops to patrol the street and put his competition out of business. He and the other neighbors, quote unquote neighbors, there's only one of them, they're hiring these police officers just as, peace and order to make sure the residents are safe.
Well,
Really what he was doing is just hiring cops to write up bullshit police reports that puts his competition out of business. Well, that's what he was doing.
And
I caught him red-handed doing it. I reported it to the assistant police chief and the mayor, and they put an end to it.
And that goes back to the police department being corrupt. I think obviously that's more of a upper echelon police department issue. If I'm the chief or the assistant chief, or if I'm the mayor and I don't know that my police officers are working private details, because the department I worked at, everyone in the city knew where cops were working, why they were working, who was paying them. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be able to do that. So obviously everything I read on the Chattanooga PD is correct. They sound, at least on the surface, to be very corrupt. Let me ask you this question. What part of Boston we are from?
I grew up in Somerville.
Okay. I mean, come on now. Somerville, you can't get a group of guys to come down to Chattanooga for a weekend and take care of business for you, brother.
I know, right?
Somerville's a tough town.
Yeah. But, it's funny you say that because, even when I reported this to higher ups, the assistant police chief is a real square guy and a good guy. And like I said, he immediately said to me, Brian, this does not sound right. I'm going to check it out. This is not the way we're supposed to do things. But I had also mentioned it to some other officers, and I would get pushback. I get like a cover up. I get, no, Brian, that's not what's going on. You've got this wrong. I said, excuse me, I'm going to show you a message right here on my phone. I saved it. This is from your boss. The assistant police chief has confirmed to me that this is the guy who's writing the checks. Don't argue with me.
Yeah, cops are pretty good at dispelling bad rumors about themselves. And you walk into the station and 30 of them will look at you and say, I know nothing. The little monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
Well, it sounds like too, Brian, that you got a police department. There are 500 officers, 200 internal affairs reports in the last couple of years. Let me go to this other thing. If you're one of the other things that you've got that you've used is you've got security cameras
everywhere.
And I know there's two things. One of the things that struck me, you said that there was a report of a fight. Your video camera showed that there was no fight in this location. It was
more than a fight, a shooting.
Oh, shooting. Sorry. Yeah. There was
guys, if somebody got shot, trust me, one of my 9 security cameras is going to show it.
And yet, not only does it not show up, but then the story gets printed in the local newspaper.
Yes.
Reported in the media as well. I mean, reported in the TV media, the radio media, because that's the official word, right?
So here's what happened.
Yeah.
Dwayne Carleo, the same guy who runs the bars across the street from me, who used to hire the cops to patrol the street, what he had done is he took some video one night. This was Saturday night. I think it was a Saturday night, December 15th. He had claimed, and he fed the story to the local paper. He and one of the other neighbors, they had both decided that, hey, there was some guys, black guys naturally.
Yep.
Black guys naturally. When white guys get into a bar fight in Chattanooga, nobody says anything. Lord forbid, if you have 2 black guys who get into a fight, oh, Jesus Christ, the shitstorm that results from that.
Yeah.
That goes back to the inherent racism that I'm talking
about.
This
goes
anyway.
But let me just get this I want to get back to this, but your clientele, is it mixed race?
Mixed race. But if I had to put a number on it, we're a snapshot of the American population. I'd say we're 85% white.
What about across
15% black and Latino. Across the street's 100% white bread.
Yeah. So they seem like there's a lot more color at your place. I mean, is it racism?
Yes, 100%.
100%. Good. Okay.
Before I even opened the place, I had cops telling me, "You going to be playing that hip hop bullshit?"
Yeah. No.
I wanted to say to the guy, I did not say what I wanted to say, but what I wanted to say to him is, bro, You know what your 16-year-old white daughter dances to? She doesn't dance to fucking Barry Manilow anymore, you stupid racist. What she dances to is Megan Thee Stallion and Puffy and fucking Jay-Z. You know that, right? You know she dances to Cardi B. That's what the white girls dance to. So yeah, that's why I'm playing that quote unquote hip hop shit.
Right.
You know, putting your racism aside, I'm just a good businessman and I know what the kids want to hear.
Right.
So anyway, on a Saturday night in December, a couple of black guys come out of my club and start getting into an argument with each other. No fists are thrown. It's more or less just shoving and a verbal fight. You know, we better back off, bro. Somebody hold me back. You know, that kind of fronting. Very next day, I get a text message from somebody who writes from the local newspaper. Brian, do you have any comment about the shooting that happened last night outside your establishment? The what now? There was an alleged shooting that happened. Well, who did you find this out from? I have sources on the street. That's interesting because I haven't heard anything from Chattanooga police. You would think if there was a shooting outside my bar, there'd be some sort of official investigation. Like you'd think I'd hear from police. You'd think police would want to question the business owner, come in, maybe look at some surveillance tape, see if they can identify these guys. So long story short, I get a text message the next morning. Yeah, there was an alleged shooting. This has been reported to me by some quote unquote neighbors on the street. First of all, I'm like, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. You're talking about the clown across the street who's already doing illegal things that he's already gotten busted for. The police did investigate this. These claims of an alleged shooting. There was no ballistic evidence, no shell casings, no bullets, no victim, no witness statements, no victim statement, no blood on the street, no crime scene.
The perfect murder. The perfect murder committed in Chattanooga, baby.
See, you said it couldn't be done, and it has been.
And I said, so I'm messaging back to the reporter from the Times Free Press. I said, right. So the neighbors are claiming there was a fight. Now you're the journalist, not me. I don't have a degree in journalism, by the way, but you do, allegedly. You don't think it's weird that the neighbors are claiming there was a shooting, but there's no shell casings, no ballistic evidence, there was no crime scene, there's no blood on the street, no victim showed up at the hospital, no victim was transported to the hospital, no suspect was taken into custody, and no witness statements were taken from anybody who claims there was a shooting. You don't think that's weird?
Am I correct to say, and you had the video that showed nothing?
He writes me back and he says, well, I've got videotape of it happening. I said, really? Because I've got 9 video angles. And I don't see what you're seeing. But you're telling me, and this is what I wrote back to him because I wanted to be clear on this. I said, you're telling me that you have continuous, unedited video footage of a man walking out of my premises, pulling a weapon out of his pants and shooting somebody. You have continuous, unedited video of this happening. He writes back to me and says, yes, I have 3 angles of it. First of all, that's interesting to me because the businesses across the street don't even have 3 surveillance cameras. They have 2. So that's kind of weird. So you're telling me just by chance, these guys happened to pull out their cell phones at the exact same time when this alleged shooting happened. My 9 cameras has not picked up. That's what you're telling me? Yeah, that's what I saw. Fast forward a couple of months. They never shared the video with me. I asked the reporter at the Times Free Press, well, can you send me the video? He said, no, I don't have permission to do that. Are you going to post the video when you post the story to your web edition? He said, no, I don't have permission to do that either. I have no reason to believe that this bullshit videotape you claim to have is even real.
Now, did they use that video to take your license, your liquor license? Was that one of the premises to take your license?
This was just a story that ran in the newspaper just to smear my name even further.
Can I make another suggestion? I know I spoke about Somerville as being a tough crowd, but I think in hands down that your connections in Columbia might be the route you want to go. Bring the Colombians up here and things will be a lot different.
I'm sure the Colombians, I'm sure, would not know what to do with a journalist.
You guys will also appreciate this. It came to my attention weeks and months later that these guys, they had circulated this video to business owners, bar and restaurant owners all across the city. Again, just in an effort to smear my name. I walked in one day, a restaurant right up the street, inadvertently, I ended up seeing the video because one of their managers, one of the restaurant managers up the street, happened to be showing the video to my web guy. My web guy was in there having brunch that day. And she says, I got this video from the guys across the street. And like, they're saying that this is a shooting. I finally end up looking at the video. It's a black guy pointing his finger. And like, you don't hear any audio. But it's a black guy pointing his finger and saying, like, get the fuck out of here. They point at his extended finger and go, see, that's a gun. And I zoom in on it and I go, I know he's black and it's dark, but like, I'm pretty sure that's not a gun. I think that's his finger. I see a fingertip. That's not a gun. They had just made up the entire thing. The entire thing was absolute bullshit. They sent it around to every business owner here to smear the guy from Boston. Right. This is what they do. And sent it to the paper, and the paper astoundingly ran the piece anyway, which is just a journalistic failure on their part, but whatever.
What newspaper was it?
The Chattanooga Times Free Press.
All right. Did you sue?
No, I haven't sued anybody yet.
Yep.
But when we're done with this conversation, trust me, that has been my plan all along. The only reason I haven't started suing people yet is because I've been on the defense.
Yeah.
I've been having to fight off these allegations and spending a lot of fees in a lot of money in legal fees doing it. I've told my attorneys straight up, and this is verbatim, I've told them, guys, look, I like the job you're doing for me, but if I'm going to keep dropping thousands of dollars on legal fees, it ain't going to be defending myself against bullshit, unfounded accusations. It's going to be going after people's necks.
Yeah.
So are you up for that job or are you not up for that job? Because I need a yes or no. So we're getting to that point. But this beer board, city, 2 news outlets in particular, I have a real good case against.
And this happens all the time in the media. It just happened all through the Trump presidency. Trump tweets something that's from a news site. It becomes news because now the president has tweeted something from a news site.
Of course.
Same way, there's a lot of follow the leader in news coverage. So the reporter writes the story in the newspaper. It gets picked up by what, radio and TV?
Sure.
Okay,
yeah. And also we live in a very small city where the rumor mill. I mean, it just rumor runs everything. And when I kept trying to get like actual sources or confirmations from this reporter at the Times Free Press, I said, "Who are you hearing this from?" Well, people on the street. Oh, interesting. What people on the street? You mean my jealous neighbors who are trying to get me shut down? That's right. What you mean by that, right? I mean, come on, dude. It doesn't take a genius to put 2 and 2 together. What's going on here? I said from the beginning, it's like, Ace Rothstein in Casino. I mean, that's like, I'm living a much smaller scale version of that. But it's also, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm living in this like crime caper novel set in the South. But it's also like the dumbest novel you've ever read. Like it's the dumbest, laziest corruption. The analogy I always use is like, I'm living my life running this bar is one of those episodes of Wheel of Fortune where we all figured out the puzzle a long time ago, but for some reason they just keep spinning the wheel.
Right. Right.
Like that's what's going on here.
I have kind of a similar story. First of all, I can sympathize with him because being in law enforcement, I've seen not necessarily at the level that he's experiencing right now of harassment and people making up stories or police reports to get him shut down. But a few years ago, if you look in my backyard right now, Dave, you're going to see a big pool.
Yeah,
that pool was going to be even bigger. I wanted a bigger pool in my yard, but unfortunately, the lady who worked at the planning board, we had arrested her boyfriend a couple of weeks before that. So she came to my house, and I was looking to put in a 36-foot pool. And she said, wow, I don't even think you can put a pool in here at all because, one, you're going to encroach on your neighbor, and 2, you're in a flood zone. So I got into a little argument with her, and she left and said, no, I'm not going to sign off on that permit for a pool. And then a couple of days later, I made a few phone calls, and she hadn't been working for the city that long, so she didn't have many connections, where I had a few connections, and I was able to get that permit for a pool. But she was going to shut down my pool because we had arrested her boyfriend a few weeks prior to that.
Oh,
these people, they have power, and they can make your life miserable.
Well, you also had a situation where didn't somebody tell you to go visit a bar and look for violations at
1:05 in the morning? Because the bars in Massachusetts, or at least in the town that I work, they close at 1 o'clock. So therefore, the patrons should be out by 1 and no more beer or alcohol being served. And the patrol sergeant was peeping in the window because his buddy owned a bar down the street and they were kind of in competition, as they may have in the past. So he sent me in there. He goes, hey, I need you to go in there and write a citation. I'm not writing any citation. It's like 102. And the guy was just finishing his beer, walking out the door, and he wanted me to write a citation so the beer board would take their license for a week. So I said, no, I'm not doing it. And I walked into my cruiser and I found a place to take a nap for the rest of the night.
You know what I also, though, because I do try to keep a fair mind about these things. And working in the media, I absolutely know how media works. I've never been a police officer, so I can't quite relate to that. But I know enough cops to know the challenges that they face in some of these forces. And the reality is, Dave, you work in media too, and you know this. Newsrooms today are decimated. I mean, a quote-unquote newsroom for the local news channels, they do as good a job as they can. I am not one of these people. Despite this saga that I've gone through with media outlets locally reporting fake bullshit stories about me, I'm not one of these Trump types who just, they're all fake news and the fake media lies. No, the biggest problem is you've got overworked newsrooms. They're all 24-year-old kids who make $25,000 a year. They're working on 19 different stories any given day.
Right.
And details fall through the cracks. A lot of times they just don't get details correct. They glance over a police report real fast. They print up a story before they even realize they got the details wrong. Guess what? It's already printed. Your name's already been dragged through the mud. Sure, you can issue a correction, but in the age of social media, the word already starts to spread. Hey, did you hear? Did you hear there was another stabbing? There was another shooting. And then I have to get on social media and I have to, every email that we get, every phone call we get, hey, are you guys, I heard you guys were shut down because it's really dangerous. And I lose my patience with this. No, you read a bullshit story that was written up by a 23-year-old intern who's working on 16 other stories, and she just didn't get the details right. Now I've got to spend a week, mopping up her mess. And I know for a fact it's the same thing with the police department. I mean, these, the beat cops who walk a lot of these streets in any city, they have to deal with 200 different issues and police reports a day. A lot of the forces are understaffed. They're overmatched, overchallenged, understaffed. They don't have the time on their hands. And, how much of it is corruption versus how much of it is just people who are overworked and working on too much stuff and they don't get their details right?
Now, do you think the Chattanooga, as of like today, as we speak today, do you think the Chattanooga Police Department is a good police department? Are they all corrupt? Is it just a couple of guys or gals who are making it look really bad?
It's a couple. And I don't say that. I'm also I'm not one of these blue lives forever people. I'm a realist. I mean, I always say police are like anybody else. They're not superhuman. Most of them are decent people. Some of them are corrupt assholes. Guess what? You can say the same thing about your local insurance company. You can say the same thing about your local Boy Scouts branch, right?
How about your local comedy manager?
Exactly. For every Dave Rattigan, there's Jesus, who was the guy who's in the connection? Bill?
I think it's everybody else.
Yeah. Okay, you have Dave Rattigan who actually follows through and writes you that $5 check he promised.
Yeah. $25.
Yeah, it's actually up to 50. It's up to 50. I know what kid who got paid by him.
Yeah, there's your inflation. Thanks, Biden.
Hey, let me ask you about two things. First of all,
but hold on before. Keep that in mind, Dave, because I do want to say this clearly. No, I don't think the whole force is corrupt. I should mention there's another police officer who walks Station Street, who walks the street. Used to walk the beat that I was on. I had a couple of interactions with him. He's a DUI officer. I'll give him a shout out. His name's Ryan Lynn. This guy's one of the best police officers I've ever encountered. The guy's straight. He's square. He's honest. He's a good guy. He's a good sense of humor. He's patient. I've told his higher ups, that's a guy who I think's got police chief written all over him. It's a force, though, that traditionally going back over the decades, you had your dirty old South boss hog bullshit. Yeah. You had a lot of that back in the day, and they've been trying to clean it up, and they've got a ton of officers who are clean. They've got a new police chief, an assistant police chief. The old police chief, by the way, I should give him a shout out too, because the former police chief, the guy who just left, is a guy named David Rattigan, who's a white guy, white guy who grew up right in Chattanooga, works on the force. One of the best officers you're ever going to find. I mean, that guy was as clean as the day is long and just an honest police officer. He was a very, very popular guy. He's one of those guys who been on the force since he was 22. Now he's like 52 and he can retire. You know what I mean? So
sounds like my story. I retired.
Yeah.
Before I was indicted, right, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. Except for the police chief written all over him. Brian, one thing, you mentioned social media a couple of times. Somebody wanted to check out this saga on social media. Where would they go?
I mostly post the stuff to my Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/the Brian Joyce, that's my Facebook page. Most of the stuff regarding the bar saga I post to Facebook. There's a little on Instagram, but it's mostly on Facebook.
It's great reading. Have you talked about this on your show? I know you talked about it on social media. Have you talked about it on the show, the radio show?
The problem is I come into, there's a conflict of interest there. I come up against plugola, payola rules. And my boss had we had a long talk about this before I even opened the bar. He said, look, it's great that you're going to be an entrepreneur, great that you're opening up a business, but you have to keep in mind plugola, payola rules. You can't be coming on these airwaves and giving free plugs, even when it's bad stuff that's in the news. That's still considered to be like a plug or whatever. The only exception to that is when it's newsworthy. So, if something made, like if Peyton Manning were to come into the bar and the gossip pages were all over, sure, I can talk about that.
But if you're going in front of the beer board and you feel that you've had charges leveled against you that are unfair,
right?
Then you can't talk about that because you're
Because I work in the media and I know how to manipulate the media, and I know how the media cycle works. That's why I'm sure. Did you see the press conference that I held?
I did. I did see that.
I did that on purpose because I said, look, I don't want to waste precious minutes on the air talking about this horse shit. Number two, there's a conflict of interest there. Plugola, payola. Federal law. So you know what I'm going to do? I contacted my lawyer and I said, hey, this next beer board hearing, I'll tell you what, why don't you guys go in there, say a few words for me, and then I'm just going to hold a 60-minute press conference outside. Why not just blow them the fuck up?
Yeah.
Why not do it that way? That way I can actually speak my mind and get the message out. And my lawyer said, yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. Why not?
All right. And it's a great press conference. The Brian Joyce on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right.
Your license. What's the situation with your license right now?
So they suspended, they revoked. Here's where this gets into it. And the last thing I'll say real quick, a corrupt system or just plain incompetent. So in the state of Tennessee, you have a liquor license to sell alcohol, to sell liquor, hard liquor. And then you have a beer permit to sell beer. A liquor license comes from the state, the ABC, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The Tennessee ABC is what grants you your liquor license to sell whiskey and vodka. Your beer comes from this crooked band of local schmokel midgets called the Beer Board. And that's the good old boy network where, hey, buddy, aren't you that guy I grew up with and used to play softball with? All right, man, you got a beer permit, and anybody else can go fuck themselves. So you get your liquor license from the ABC. You get the beer permit from the city. So the city, this beer board, has entirely revoked my beer permit. They branded me an unruly establishment because of this one fist fight that happened in the street, mind you, which I'm not even responsible for.
Yeah.
And basically the handful of other things, like the handful of other false police reports and exaggerated stories in the media. Again, it was straight out of Casino. In Casino, when he goes in there for his hearing to get his license, and before he can even speak, they just hammer the gavel and say denied. That's what happened. I put on a nice suit. I walk in there. I try to address them. Hello, my name is Brian. Boom, smack, denied. Get out of here. You're revoked. So that's basically how it went down. But two things about that. So all you do, the beer board is not a legal board. They have no legal power to do anything. It's a bunch of local schmokel kings, local. They think they're the kings and queens of their local little fiefdom. It's the most important job they'll ever have in their life. They're not a legal board. So as soon as they say, right, your beer permit's revoked, what you do is you appeal it to an actual court, which is the Chancery Court. Mm-hmm. Once you file the appeal gets thrown in a stack of appeals that's about, 2,500 pages long. And long story short, as long as you appeal it, you're allowed to continue doing business as usual. We've had this appeal. The appeal back in November. It's March, and we still haven't even had the appeal hearing yet.
Right.
So I just keep operating. And then the last thing I'll say about it, again, that's just the beer permit. The Tennessee ABC, the people who control my liquor license, they've got no problems with me. They've never written me up for a single thing. Now, isn't that curious that this incredibly violent, dangerous place where there's shootings and fights and shootings and fights and underage kids walking out drunk, all of these allegations that the beer board in Chattanooga shut me down for, the Tennessee ABC has not recognized one of them and cited me for anything. Isn't that a little bit weird?
Not in context.
A little bit weird.
What's it done? Let me, last question. What's it done for your business? Still doing well? Struggling?
I mean, listen, man, I can send you the line down the block. I mean, all it's done is given us, that old saying, all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
It's just given us this notoriety, man. I've got a line down the block. Business is through the roof. The bar across the street, I've almost put out of business entirely. I'm going to send you when we hang up on this call, Dave, I'll send you a video from the line we had Saturday night.
Yeah.
You're going to see a line that stretches down the entire city block. And then I pan across the street, the jackass with the 2 bars who tried to, hire the cops, write up the fake police reports. Place is a ghost town. He doesn't even have a customer in there. I've got a line down the block.
You're the Banksy exhibit of Chattanooga.
Look, man, the thing about it is all I wanted to do is open a business. Despite my media personality, and I can be a pretty brash and bold person, but beyond that, Dave, guys like me and you grow up Irish Catholic in Boston. You keep your head down. You mind your own business. You try to do things the right way. I'm not looking for any trouble. I'm not looking for any drama. And from the minute I opened this place, it's just one local schmokel nitwit just trying to fuck with me. And it got to the point where I just said, you know what, guys? Unfortunately, you've kind of picked a fight with the wrong guy. And I say it to people all the time. This is just the Boston Irish ethos. I don't pick fights, but I fucking finish them.
Can I say something? I know Dave's gonna wrap it in a second, but I gotta get this in. I'm renting a Winnebago. First stop, Somerville. I can probably get about 8 to 10 guys who just got out of Walpole. We're going to put them in the Winnebago. We're going to go south to the border. We're going to grab a whole bunch of Colombians coming in. We'll be in Chattanooga by Sunday. And we're going to take care of this once and for all, my friend.
That's what I tell them. I'm like, unfortunately, you guys picked a fight with the wrong guy, and now I'm fighting back. And I don't think you guys have ever experienced this before. You just expected me to lay down and roll over like every other pushover you've tried to push around this city, and that's not how I do things.
Just tell them that's why they lost the war anyway.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
But the other thing about it is, guys, the other difference between me and I can end on this is that I genuinely I kind of carry myself with a don't give a fuck attitude. Okay, what's the worst you get? I mean, Dave, you know me. I like you say, I've kind of been a nomad my whole life. When you first met me, I was an investment banker who would show up in a suit and tie, and I was doing stand up, and then I moved overseas, and then I moved back to Boston, and then I got into radio, and then I opened a bar. The world's a big place. I can do a lot of things. So I go about these things saying, hey, I've got nothing to lose. I've got nothing to lose. You try to screw with me, I'm going to screw back. And I've said it a million times. Anybody tries to take me down, I'm going to take you down with me. And if that means we all go down, then that's fine. But, I'm not going to be the only victim here. And that's the way I've been fighting this. You feed crap stories to the media about me, I'll do the exact same to you. You might want to be careful when you mess with me.
That's a great final words, and good luck with you. Good luck with your fight. And if any of our listeners want to follow it, the Brian Joyce on Facebook. It's great drama, and then they get to look at your dog. And congratulations on your new dog.
That's right. Yeah, I got this new dog, Hank. Where's your next gig? You got a stand-up gig coming up?
Who knows? Who knows? I know that I do, but I'm one of those guys now who you say, where are you working this weekend? And I go, I don't know. I got to check my book.
He's doing pretty good, Brian. I went to his last show. He's pulling about 30 people in the crowd on a sold-out Friday night. He's doing good for himself.
Yeah, post-pandemic, it's not bad.
We're coming back. Hey, thanks a lot, Brian. That's Brian Joyce, owner of the Blue Light in Chattanooga, Tennessee. If you want to follow his saga again, The Brian Joyce on Facebook. That's it for Inside the Line. Real Stories by Real Cops. I'm Dave Rattigan. That's Dale Lawrence. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.